Evidently, there's not a lot of fish in here right now, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go to the next creek up the lake. I don't wanna go too far up the lake because I think from the color of this water that too far up the lake's gonna be too muddy and too silty and just gonna be a bad deal. So we're gonna go to the next real good looking pocket up or the next good looking creek and we're gonna try it again.
What type of area should you look for to establish a pattern for spring bass? Search for riprap along the dam or road crossings on the lake. Sunlight warms these waters first and bass are more active feeders. Or find a creek with a significant amount of flat water. A creek with a pretty good channel, but not a major tributary that would carry heavy runoff and silt. Look for cover, but with open areas where bass can spawn. Or pick a pocket or cove right off the main lake channel. Select a cove on the northeast side of the lake. These waters warm sooner with southerly winds. Look for spawning flats nearest the mouth of the cove. Have you selected your answer? Well, Ken Cook's answer is B. Here's his explanation.
This is the area that I've chosen to start for several reasons. It is in the lower end of the lake, as you see, we're near the dam. But this creek here has a significant amount of flat water. It has a lot of edges. It has road beds and fence rows, and it has a pretty good little channel, but it's not a big creek channel that would pull in a lot of silt into the lake. I expect the bass to be moving into this sort of a place because it has a lot of the flat shoreline, but it has a lot of cover, but it also has, the cover's broken up with open places in the shallow water where bass can spawn. Bass can't really spawn in the shade. They have to have sunlight to really incubate the eggs. You know, most of the time of year we tend to fish the shade, but this time of year we can fish in the sunlight more because the fish are actually going to be spawning in those kind of places.
I'm going to either go to this one of these little pockets here, this pocket behind this island. I'm going to just try 3 or 4 of these small little feeder creeks until I work my way down to the very last major creek down at the dam. We've got a lot of structure in here, a lot of isolated structure. Like these bushes are right out here in front of me. This is the ideal place for a fish. I like fishing the isolated stuff much better than I do this real thick clumps of trees because you might fish these 2 miles of these trees and not ever catch a bass. But if there's a bass anywhere around this flat, they should be hanging right on this isolated cover right here. When you're hunting fish like this, trying to find patterns, really trying to really see what's going on. You know, don't fish a big area like this. You know, you could fish in here all day long and not ever catch a bass. Just go down the bank and, you know, try to pick out the key pieces of structure and just fish, just run your bait by those.
There's one. All right. Well, there's not any fish, it's just him in the bushes. Well, mostly bush. Well, I started off throwing the spinnerbait. Spinnerbait cover a lot of water for me, and hopefully if I get into a group of fish, at least one of them will bite it. And I'm kind of alternating that with a jig or a lizard. Those 2 baits, between the 2 of them, I should be able to catch some fish if I get into where there's some active fish at least. I just saw a fish kind of swim by there, a bass, and I kind of expected as this day warms up. We've had a cold front through. As the day warms up later on this afternoon, it's calm. The surface water is going to warm up a lot, and some of these fish are going to just rise up out of the deeper water and sit up in the warm upper layer of water. And they may not be very active. They may be real spooky. That's one of the things that I have to watch out for. But I think some fish are going to do that. I've already seen a little bit of it. Some bluegill are starting to do it. Some carp are doing it. And maybe as the day progresses, we'll get those fish up in that top zone. And sometimes they'll really bite, and sometimes they'll be too spooky.
You know, we've been fishing along here, I guess, about an hour, and we haven't had a bite. But, you know, the thing you got to do is you kind of got to get your mind right, because this time, there he is. Just keep on after him, and sooner or later, something's going to happen. Just keep your mental attitude. Of course, this is a little guy, it's a little buck bass, all this is. You're going to find a lot of small buck bass this size back in these places right now. They're, you know, making beds, and there's going to be a lot of them. Let's go along through here. Maybe we'll get another bite or 2 on a jig.
There he is. A little better fish there. Oh, that's a better fish. Now that's a typical fish for a, this is a new lake. These fish are growing real fast. See how short and stubby he is? Now he bit it like he wanted it. Must have made a half a dozen casts in there. You know, I thought that's probably a sign of this cold front. This cold front's got these fish shut down, and I made several casts right in that same little alley. And I almost had the boat all the way out of it, and bang, he ran up there and bit.
Come on, fish.
How do you establish a pattern when the fish are fickle and don't bite? If you haven't had a bite in an hour, obviously the cold front has shut the bass down. Find the warmest water available and fish the thickest cover. Figure the bass have moved into overhead cover because of the bright, clear skies. Or change tactics completely. Fish different type waters than already covered. Vary your lure selection. For example, if throwing spinner baits, change to topwaters and shallow running jerk baits. Experiment to find pieces to the bass catching puzzle. Or just don't get discouraged. Bass behavior is normally predictable in the spring. Keep the faith and keep fishing. If you get in the right area with the right lure presentation, the bass will bite. Another hour may make the difference. Have you selected an answer? Actually, during spring fishing, all three answers are correct at times. But in this case, Tom Mann says C is most important. Keep the right mental attitude.
You know, just because you fish an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, you know, don't necessarily give up on what you're doing if you believe it's right. You know, springtime, you know, fish are supposed to be back. They're going to be back. You just got to get in that right area.